Well, last time you saw me, I was, dropping off a load at the big ship there. Well, the other ship got a little shot up, and I decided to cash in my chips while I could. So I sold that ship and all my ore. I got a real good deal on a used miner. It's an older model of the one seen before. So to show you around here, this is the ore fly. Got it cheap because it doesn't come with any cargo in the back, but it does have deployable solar panels. The drill area is a little bit more narrow than the other one. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And the big problem is I got to get fuel before I left. So I got some stuff here. No fuel. The good thing is I did make it back to the base space area. Problem I'm having is I do not remember where I parked the base. So I'm gonna have to drive around. I'm gonna shoot for that right there. Let's say 429 kilometers. I think that one makes the most sense. So that's what I'm going for. And to keep you entertained while I do this low crawl there, because I can go a little faster than this, but I'm very much depending on those solar panels to keep me powered until I get there. And if I'm lucky, I'll see some uranium somewhere before I get there. At least that's what I'm hoping. So, anyway. Yeah, there's not much to look at, so I'll go ahead and get that story started for you. The continuation of the Fall of Valroona. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Chapter 3, New World. A rare sight one would see on a day such as this, Darren said to his young apprentice. A sight not that strange, sir. It's just a flock of birds. Darren chuckled. Off in the distance, a dark cloud was quickly moving toward them. As it got closer, the sound of at least 1,000 ravens' wings beat the air in what seemed an imperfect time. Not unlike a quick march of an army on their way to battle. Very strange indeed, said Darren. Not one of them made a single call or vocalism whatsoever. We must hasten our travels, boy. Come. Troubles afoot. Don't you mean troubles a-wing, sir? The boy said, running up behind him. Don't start with me now, boy. It's not the time for jokes. Darren couldn't help but crack a smile, perhaps a small laugh, and gave the boy a father's wink, which gave the boy solace, knowing that though it wasn't time to be lighthearted, even Darren couldn't help himself at the boy's words. They ran for what seemed a day, stopping just long enough for food and drink. When night fell, they made camp without fire. Darren didn't want any undue attention. The next day was another long run. Sometime after midday, they came to a great wall, or the weight of vegetation that covered it. Huge hinges frozen in rust shone what unimaginably tall doors were. One could make out their thickness from marks left on the stone from whence they rested. Sir, what would have inspired men to build such magnificently large and what seemed endless walls, such as these? Darren looked at the boy. Well, I guess you're ready for the story of our ancestors. Let's walk a bit. I have a feeling that we may be to our destination sooner than we are needed. Eons ago, the world was ruled by men. Magic and the ways of the world today were not but stories of fantasy. It was a world of science ruled by greed. The Great Mother fell sick and this world could no longer support life. The people of that time had a complete understanding of the entire universe. Many of them had left this world on great ships and flew off into the stars above. Those who stayed were decrepit and old, infirm, and yet some stayed behind, believing that they could fix it all. They formed a group, a gathering of the most brilliant people left on the planet. As the world continued to grow weaker, the people found that their technology was what was destroying their environment. Those who could went out and explored the world for what small patches of life they could find, to try and live in harmony with earth, sky, and water. What was left of it, that is. There was a split between humans that embraced nature and those who fought to stay alive with their technology. Battles broke out between the techs and the greens over resources, further destroying the natural balance. Toward the end, all seemed lost but for one small group. There was a gathering of greens who believed that tech could live in harmony with nature, perhaps enhance it, to help it, to somehow combine the two. The stories arose of plants that could move on their own, and strange creatures with even stranger abilities, and a valley of unknown location they called home. Some people speculate that someone had genetically enhanced their subjects, and with the aid of the smallest mechanical things one could imagine, they changed the animals and plants into monstrosities, and fears with mounting rumors had begun to manifest themselves on more of a religious belief. Those green techs had finally cultivated the perfect balance between wild and tech, making a dying ecostructure stronger than anything even they thought was possible. For years they tried to tame what they had created, but all of their endeavors turned feral, and with no way to control it, they had no choice but to seal it away forever. They left their compound in the desert and moved south, rebuilding their home. Using the knowledge they had gathered, they were able to make civilization begin anew, synthesizing everything they needed: food, water, clothes, building materials, and as well were able to replenish the air they needed for breathing. Confining themselves to cities and only able to venture out for short periods of time, in time, they had forgotten where their valley was. But for one phrase from a child's story of a valley hidden in a desert, where magical creatures and plants ruled, and veiled by an invisible bush that only the just were able to walk through without harm, marked by an outcropping of stones, and tucked inside this small group of rocks, big enough to conceal a small paradise, but not so big to warrant anyone to find shelter or investigate. In this child's story, it tells of a child lost in the desert, and near death she fell into a trance during a storm. Walking as though drawn toward an unknown force, she found herself in a valley of a lush, wet forest. She was surrounded by mystical creatures that fed and nourished her back to life. Living an enchanted life, she grew to be powerful with the magic of this land that had taken her as its own child. In time, she felt it was right for her to leave and repay the kindness of the valley by finding new areas that she could propagate for the forest and bring life back to the world outside the valley. She took seed from the valley and went out to the world, After many years of travel, she had planted many a valley to become fertile and prosperous. Life came back to the world. Plants and animals were again becoming plentiful. The air was again breathable. As generations passed, the people became strong again. But the vision she had for the world she was trying to create was not coming to fruition. The plants and animals didn't talk to her as the ones she grew up with. They seemed to be just what they were, plants and animals. She could talk to them as long as she was touching them. But she was the only one that could do this. And she had helped the world come back from the dead. But it wasn't the magical world she thought she was planting the seeds for. Out of all the people she met, she was the only one that had special abilities. And seemingly being ageless, she had traveled the world many times, never to find another like her. Till one day, she found a farmer sitting in a field with his hands buried in the dirt, mumbling some words she couldn't make out. Clouds formed over his field, and a light rain began to fall. Once the field had enough water, the clouds parted away for the sun. Once the sun's rays fell on the ground, the entire field erupted with life. Plants growing a month in just a few minutes. He stood up, brushing off the dirt and mud, walking back to his house. Intrigued, she went up to him and asked how he was able to do such a feat. He simply answered him he's always been able to do it. As far as he knew, he was the only one who could. The two talked for hours, and finally she felt she had to share her ability. She took his hand and walked him to his horse. While holding his hand, she touched the head of the horse, and he was able to hear the horse's thoughts. Amazed at this, he carried a conversation with his horse, asking him every question he could, thinking that perhaps he was dreaming. Equally so, the horse seemed excited about being able to talk to his keeper and informed the farmer of everything the horse liked, and also took the chance to say a few things that the horse most definitely did not like. The farmer laughed at the thought of being put in his place by his horse, but the experience did impact the farmer tremendously. Then she did the same for a nearby tree, and again the farmer was at awe at the prospect of talking not only to an animal but plants as well. "Amazing!" he exclaimed. Time and time again they finished a grand tour of all the plant and animal life on the farm, ending with his dog, which, funny enough, was the simplest of all the conversations. About all you could get from the dog was, "Feed me, pet me, and play." The lady told the farmer that pets that become dependent on people never grow past their childlike state. Not wanting for much, they never learn anything more than the commands that their owners teach, and they live a simple and happy life. And if he wanted a real conversation with a proper dog, then they would have to go find a wolf or a dog gone feral. Cats, on the other hand, would just ignore them both, pompous and defiant to the end. They stayed together for many years, and during that time they fell in love and had a child. They named their child Shane. Ancestry's loss found. "Valsu, Valsu!" "What is it, man?" responded Valsu. "Someone found the first valley." "They found it, you say?" Valsu said in a flat and dead tone. "Yes, we were on a survey looking for the entrance, as we had been doing for many years. We saw a man walking in the desert. He walked right past us. We tried to talk to him, but he was completely delirious. He didn't see or hear us. He was walking like if there were a storm, but the day was clear." "You say he found the entrance. Yes, he did, I think. He was walking straight across from where we have always thought the entrance would be. But that's just more open desert. I know! We have been all over that area, and there's nothing but sand and flat wasteland. You make no sense. Get to it. I am. Like I said, he was walking out, away from the group of rock we summarized the valley would be. Yes. And it looked as though he was walking in a storm. Yes. We watched him walking away into the desert. Your point? Well, he disappeared. He what? Vanished. That means nothing. He must have imagined it. Or perhaps he fell in a hole. We thought the same thing. A few of us ran over to investigate, and there was no hole. But one of them was impelled by an invisible thing. He was killed? But no. He impelled himself with what I think is a thorn, holding out two empty hands, as though holding a weapon. He presented the invisible thorn to Valsu. Valsu reached out with skepticism and grasped the thorn. So it's true. Valsu's face changed from hard to almost childlike expression. But it was supposed to be in a small group of rocks, such as the ones we were looking at. We said the same thing. We searched everywhere. After an hour of investigation, the area that our men was impelled, it no longer exists. What you say? No longer exists? Yeah, as though it never was. We surmise that the only reason we were able to save this thorn was because we didn't take it out until we had brought it back home, so we can properly extract it without damaging it. Good thinking, replied Valsu. From the little testing we did, it seems indestructible. Well, how then did it break off? I was thinking of that, sir, and I theorize that it came from a plant that's supple when alive, see? Sharp but fragile. Yet when a piece such as this breaks off, it instantly hardens to what we can tell is harder than anything we've ever really studied. Really? Yes. I believe that it's a defensive reaction. You don't say. Well, I do. We think it's so no one can find out his secrets. Ah, I see. It does perplex one as to the oddity of it all. Indeed. Send our best investigators and trackers. Set up camp. Stay there as long as it takes, even if your children's children are all that's left. Find the entrance? Find the entrance. With a dumbfounded look on Streak's face, he walked out as though it would be the last time he would ever see his home again. The faithful servant obeyed his leader. For 20 years, Sarik was vigilant in his search for the entrance. Through all these years, his hope began to fade. Strange storms from seemingly nowhere would erupt. He lost so many men and women that the leader himself came to see why so many had died. But by the time he had arrived, every man had completely lost his mind. Those who had survived fled from the area, claiming a curse had taken the veil. As the leader rode nearer to the encampment, women lay wailing to the skies, some beaten to unrecognizable shapes. Men were torn apart, partially self-inflicted in by what seemed packs of beasts. A cold flush of fear rushed through his entire being. He entered just inside the Vale encampment atop his horse. He could see the absoluteness of what had conspired. It was all burnt, as though an army had come through and razed it to the ground. With a booming voice, he called for Sharik. "Sharik, where are you, boy?" No sound or movement was made. "He's gone." Now slumped in his saddle, he turned to leave. Behind him, in a pile of burnt rubble, which was at one time the command center, a charred and mangled hand worked its way into the air. It shook in pain as it screamed for help. Another hand grasped it, and another. Out of the embers, a body was pulled free. "Sharik, my boy!" The man held his deformed son to him, picking him up and carrying him to a cart. Physicians fix him now, his doctors falling over themselves to do his bidding. "Men, search everywhere. Bring all survivors here. We must get home quickly." Valsu felt a squeeze on his hand, not realizing he was still holding Sharik's hand. Sharik's eyes were open. "Cursed!" Words as twisted and as burnt as his body oozed from his lips. Sharik somehow grabbed Valsu by the collar, pulling him close to him. "The land is cursed. Run! Run now!" At that moment, a fierce sandstorm erupted and engulfed the encampment. Valsu called for all his men to flee, but his voice dwindled in the storm and became more of a light whisper. Thunder and lightning enveloped the skies, dark clouds giving birth to a deluge of torrent rain. Flash floods washed clean the desert's impure and unnatural inhabitants. Miles away, Valsu, hanging on to the cart with all his worth, washed up on the shores of the once dry lake that was next to his city. A handful of men and women survived the tragedy and came to Valsu's and Sharik's aid. "Darren! Hey, Darren, wake up!" "I'm awake, boy. What do you want?" "Do you smell that?" Kinda smells like roast pig." Darren's eyes widened a bit. "No, boy. Roast pig doesn't smell like that. It's..." Darren jumped up and was running toward the smell. The boy gathered up their things as fast as he could and did his best to keep up. They ran in what was the straightest line that a man had ever taken through the woods. As they ran, the smell changed to an almost putrid fog. They came to the edge of the woods and Darren stopped. Panting, he leaned up against a tree. Looking out, he saw a village ablaze. No sounds but the fire emanated from it. Darren gathered his still and walked slowly and with purpose, the boy in close tow. The carnage was unbearable for the boy. Burnt bodies of the villagers and their livestock littered the ground. He collapsed to the ground next to a lady holding a child. "Get up, boy. There's nothing we can do. They are dead. Let them be." They walked through the village to the main hall. The once brightly painted adobe-style buildings with the robust columns were black with soot and charred murals gone to dust. Giant holes were burnt through the walls and roofs of the buildings. Inside, many of the holes burned into the ground below. "No, it can't be." "What can't it be, Darren?" "Bringers of the sun. Beings that have harnessed the sun's beams, concentrated to such an extreme that when anything is exposed to it, the rays not only burn holes, but they blast holes with a light brighter and hotter than that of the sun. It is said that just seeing the light will burn your soul. and it's said that anyone seeing it, or seeing the carnage left behind, that their village was sure to be next. I've heard of these things in battle. The great elder called the great mechanical beings with hell's infernal burning within. But these are ancient and were thought to be all but extinct, things of legend. Nothing more than stories to keep unruly children in line. We must hasten our travel to Valroona. I can only hope that the bringers aren't headed in that direction. Come, boy, we go now. With a few words and a gesture, Darren conjured up a couple steeds. They mounted and off they rode to get news to Valsu the Fourth, to hopefully assemble their army and consult the Clarividente. Clarividente, a group that took the name from an old text found eons ago. Those who seek all and know all. They grew to such high acclaim that no one in power does anything without their permission first. Once thought as good, honest people that had not but the best intentions for all people. Had, as all groups that come to power, become corrupt and hungry for mastery over all humankind. But to say such things would bring death to one even having said it in a flash of frustration at their own life situation. Since the tragedy of our northern camp 4 generations ago, leaving the ruler Valsu clasping his son on the shores of the now called Moral Lakes, caused from the curse of the Vale. The city of Valroona has prospered. Though tragic, the flooding of the dry lake beds opened Valroona to a richer soil and waterways that covered 68 square mile area. After exploring, found flowing past other towns and cities to the ocean, making trade easier. Fish from the ocean swam to the northern streams to spawn, giving a new source of food and fertilizer for their fields. The land around the lakes and river came lush with trees and other useful vegetation. The rain, at first frightening to the people, now looked upon as a source of life and is waited for in anticipation each year. On this particular year, just as the celebrations bringing in the rains began at Valroona, 2 strangers had entered, a short, stocky man and a boy. The man, dressed in outdated garb, tattered and road-weary. Beard and hair had most likely not seen a blade since he was a young man. Handsome eyes, yet a hard look, as though to pierce one's soul. The only thing harder than his eyes were his face and hands, as granite. There were no weapons that one could see as he walked with purpose, walking such as a man with nothing to hide would. The boy, walking double to keep up with the man, looked to be cut from the same lineage, not yet as tempered from years of life's tribulations as the man, but still had a stern and hard look about him. As they walked through the streets, people paid no attention to them, with the exception of vendors that lined the streets on both sides, whose voices would tout out their goods to passerbyers. Their clothing and booths brightly colored, the sweet smell of candies and pastries being made, as well as meats dried and spiced, and not to mention vegetables, the hot buttery breads, and a myriad of ales and other brews for their choosing. As night fell upon the city, it took on a carnival look and feel. Many alleys and other streets had games, others clothing, and all types of miscellaneous merchandise available. The streets were well lit, the buildings just as bright, with street performers dancing and singing. Music came from many of the buildings. One would easily be able to find any carnal knowledge they wished for the right price in the city. Valroona was most definitely a merchant's paradise. A place that one could, if they had the know, become very wealthy. Surprisingly, the whole city seemed to be free of the darker element. No guards, no fights. If there was any thefts, one would have a hard time knowing of it. No one called out for guards at any time. Eerie, said Darren. What's that? The boy asked. The seemingly lack of any apparent thievery or skullduggery is unnatural in a place such as this. The streets are clean and too well manicured for any city. Last time I was here, though big, it was a typical city along with the normal problems of a city as this. As the two walked through the city, Darren studied the people. Everyone seemed happy and enjoying themselves very much. But as he became more in tune with the environment, he could tell that behind those eyes lay a darker truth. Anytime he would make eye contact with a person, they had a sad, slave-like look, defeated and sorrowful. They would immediately look away, staring at the ground, as to not curse themselves for trouble. And he reached out with his mind and searched deeper for truth. In his mind, he could hear thousands of people pleading, screaming desperately for help, becoming overwhelmed with desperation and helplessness. Darren had a cold point in the center of his being. It grew within, and he then felt it. Death. Unsurmountable death. The city oozed with it. Every small shadow or crack pierced him with that feeling one gets when one sees a living soul leave its shell. By all that is, exclaimed Aaron, they're dead. What? The boy asked. Don't panic, boy. Stay calm and stay close. Yes, sir. No one seemed to notice the change in Darren and the boy. They just kept on as all was good and quiet normal. We must hasten to a room. After a few more minutes, they reached the inn they came for. Keeping a deadpan face, that of which even the best of gamblers would have easily been fooled by, they gathered the keys and registered for their rooms, ordered food and drink, and took their dinner to their rooms. The accommodations they had received by choice had 2 rooms and a small common room joining them in the center with a table, with a few chairs about the room, with a hearth already lit for warmth. Once inside, and Darren felt they were in a secure place, he sat in the chair next to the fire, rubbing his hands and arms like a man frozen to the core, his hard, stern features now soft and full of worry. He looked up at Travis. Boy, the days of the prophets are upon us. What do you mean, Darren? There have been no signs. Yes, there have, boy. The ravens flying, such as they did. And don't forget the village, and now the city of light. Underneath the thin veil of happiness and prosperity lays an evil not seen for generations. Valroona has fallen without a fight. I saw the signs. I hoped we had more time. I was mistaken. We have less time than I believe we need. The bringers are somehow back and are here to finish what they had started. What do you know of the bringers of the sun, boy? Just what you told me after we found that village, replied Travis. You need to know the whole story. We have little time, but you need to know what we're up against. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I hope you like that part of the story. Yeah. I'm not so sure I picked the right boulder to go to. I don't think this is the... Yeah, I don't think this is the base where we started. And I'm surrounded. That's awesome. So, yeah. Trying to find home. Wait, is that it? No. I don't think that's it. I'll get closer to it just in case, so. It does make it more difficult when you gotta go slower. So, it's gonna be a short video today. In the middle of the week like this, don't have much time to do what I'd like to do. So I am gonna do a full fly-around type thing. This coming weekend. Probably Friday, I think. I'll do just a straight gameplay, I think, no story. And we'll continue this on Tuesday as well. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed your visit. And yeah, that's not my base. I'm gonna have to do some more flying around, I guess. But yeah, middle of the week is a work week for me, so go to work in the morning and don't be falling asleep. So I am going to dock up with this oh shoot. Whoa, what was that? Oh man. Well, what do you know? Okay, yeah, we're gonna do a little jump. Go, go, go. The darn drones are coming at me, man. Whew. How much damage did you do? Oh, you did a decent amount, didn't you? Oh, man. Right in the solar cells. Alright. Full stop and then things work out, right? Oh. These up. I think. Do low power. Oh, that's not gonna work. Can I not jump anymore? Oh, that's gonna break my wings. Son of a gun. It's not what it says anyway, so it's fine. Yeah. Okay, let's do a full as far as we can jump type thing. Get a little safer. Go ahead and shut her down. Come on, 100%. That's what I want. Yes. How far am I going? A lot. Alright. It's too hot here. I think the best thing to do right now would just get oriented on the sun there. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Wait. I think I'm safe for now. But, that being said, do have to run some power. Yep. Crud. So, I'm gonna minimal usage. Go ahead and turn the lights down. Yeah, spotlights at least. A lot of spotlights on this thing. All right. Oops. Need to grab groups. And spotlight. Okay, well, I think need to fix this guy up a little bit now, but it's not in bad shape. I think I'm safe right now. Oh. Yeah, and I'm practically out of power. Running on pure solar. Nice. All right, well, thank you again, and hope to see you around. Good night. Time for bed. Well, time for me to go to bed. You can do whatever you want.